this What is Nintendo Up To? We'll talk to some experts about whether or not the Revolution controller will actually be revolutionary.
And they've pulled the plug on Asheron's call, too. We're going to talk to the man who did the deed, Jeff Anderson from Turbine, and find out why.
And the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Chris Miller is here with exclusive footage of this highly anticipated FPS, because G4 TV, the only show with motion-sensitive forced feedback, starts right now.
What is that?
That's important, isn't it?
My chair's rumbling.
That's right.
Hey, everybody, welcome to G4 TV. Now, Laura, I couldn't help but notice how large your hands are.
What?
Yes, and do you know what say women with large hands can't hold the Gameboy Micro?
That's what I was thinking.
Tiny.
Because it's so tiny. Take a look at it against the GBA.
Right.
And you can really see the difference. $20 more expensive, though. It
That's
only
right.
weighs 2.8 ounces. Basically plays all the game that the GBA SP does, over 700 titles. Graphically, it looks really good, I think.
It's cool, but for me, it's like, you know, when you have this and then you have the DS, which is only, you know, $20, $30 more, it's like, you know, how do you pick between the two?
But this is a lot less clunky, and it fits in your pocket. And
but you can't play those great DS, those innovative DS games.
Right, that's truly a problem.
There's no stylus with it. But anyway, it's coming out mid-September. Everyone's kind of looking forward to it. So that's the Gameboy Micro.
That's one of the news from Nintendo. That's some of the news from
What
Nintendo.
else
But
do we
what
have?
everyone really wants to talk about is the Revolution.
That's right.
And as you guys know, the Tokyo Game Show, which is one of the longest-running, most important annual events in gaming, is happening right around the corner, September 16th through 18th. And this year, Nintendo's going to make an appearance, where in the past years, they usually don't show up.
Yep.
And in fact, company president Satoru Iwata is going to be one of the keynote speakers. So basically, everyone's wondering, what the hell is this guy going to say? Because what we want to know, what we want him to say, is what is this new Revolution controller? What's it going to look like?
Right.
And what's it going to do?
We're
Tina?
dying to know.
I'm dying.
Everyone wants to know, and there's so much speculation because, you know,
Yeah.
at E3 they showed the console, but they said we have to wait on the controller. I remember he did that interview with Miyamoto, and he said, you know, we don't want anyone to steal it,
That's
so
what
we
they
can't
were
talk
very-
about it
Their
yet.
lips are tight, man.
Exactly, but let's take a look at what they've actually said on the record about the Revolution controller. So this is a quote from Mr. Iwata. He said, "There are too many buttons and sticks on controllers for novice players. We really want people to feel like they want to touch and play with it."
Dirty,
So that's kind of interesting. And then he also said it certainly makes a game better to have voice commands because it can alter how the game is played. We may or may not use the microphone in the new Nintendo Revolution interface.
The microphone. I don't think it ever works
I don't know, but
like
there's all this sort of speculation,
speculation.
and like no one really knows what they're going to do. But of course, you know, when we asked Nintendo of America for comment, they said Nintendo does not comment on speculation. So obviously they haven't been talking to Mr. Iwata.
Nintendo doesn't comment on Nintendo's own press release. All right, well, even though Nintendo isn't giving out much specific info on their new controller, that doesn't stop their legions of fans from taking a stab at what they think Nintendo has up their sleeve. Take a look at some of these mock-ups that we've taken from 4colorrebellion.com, and as you can see, they are all over the board.
It's got a shovel so it can dig itself
But
into
does it have a
grave.
microphone?
It
That's the
doesn't.
question.
No, it doesn't.
I like this one because it's got the microphone. It's interesting because a lot of people have been talking about maybe the controls will actually be projected. It could be a touch
I don't
screen
think
or
that's
something.
bad.
It's
I
kinda
actually
cool.
don't think
It looks
that's bad.
comfortable, at least in your hands with the rounded corners. I like that one. The win. Just win. Just win.
It's simple, like Iwata said. Few
Exactly.
buttons.
Not a lot of buttons there.
Oh, I love that.
And this one, which we're not really sure, is it remote controlled? What's it doing?
This is like something that fell off the space shuttle that now they're just saying is part of the controller.
It could be a chair. I'm not really
There's
sure.
lots of speculation. And one thing people keep talking about is maybe the controller's going to have like a gyroscope or some tilting. I mean, that's the big speculation that might be in there.
We'll
see.
see. I'm not that excited about the tilting or the microphone, but I like the win button.
And I want it to be
Win button,
wireless, as long as it's wireless.
Yeah, definitely it's got to be wireless. And so, what we wanted to do was check in with an expert. In fact, Nintendo expert and IGN Cube editor-in-chief Matt Casamassina to get his take on all this commotion. So, Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Now, Matt, we just saw some, obviously, you know Nintendo having their fanboys. We've got some incredibly detailed, imaginative mock-ups. You've seen them as well. Do you think any of them maybe are on the right track?
I think they may have some elements of the right track, but I don't think any of these controllers are accurately going to represent what we're going to get with the final product.
Which possible elements are you talking about? Like the microphone, you think that's a sure thing?
I think probably, yeah. Actually, Nintendo itself has said that it was evaluating the idea of using a microphone and that it was, you know, something that it would probably include in there, but it wouldn't be a controller-making option.
So, Matt, do you think, I mean, there's talk about, you know, gyroscopes, you know, interesting sort of, you know, touch screens, you know, that kind of idea. Where do you think it's actually going to net out? What do you think is true? What's not?
Well, I think this is all really wishful thinking, and I think it could come true just because Nintendo has dabbled in all these technologies. If you look back, touchscreens obviously on DS, although it did say that it wouldn't be using a dual-screen design for anything on Revolution.
Right.
And we're still talking about just the controller.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, do you think that the Revolution has a chance to be #1 against the PS3 and Xbox 360?
I think actually it does because, you know, it's going for a different market like DS, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, been following the trend with DS versus PSP. Probably, I think most would agree PSP is the better hardware, but DS is really outselling it because it's.
Well, I heard like Nintendogs has sold. Someone told me it's sold 250,000 copies already. Or
something? In the first week, and it's just because these games are really appealing to a different type of audience, a more mainstream type of audience.
Definitely.
And it also has got to be backwards compatible. He's going to be able to play all the old Nintendo games on it.
Right. Yeah, they've commented that all these, it's going to be able to be compatible with every past system.
I heard it's going to have a GPS unit, so if someone steals it, you're going to know exactly how to catch it.
So
based on some of these mock-ups, that could very well be true.
Well, the mock-ups are great. Everyone's sort of predicting that they're going to hopefully talk about this at TGS. What are your sources saying? Do you think this is where we're going to finally see it?
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to happen here at TGS. They're definitely going to be talking to Revolution, and based on people I've talked to, the controllers are going to come up.
Big news. Well, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
And,
appreciate it.
We'll have a report from Geoff from the TGS.
I will be there.
The news on
and I'm going to watch from my
TGS.
living room.
Okay, good.
And you guys, I also got a chance to speak with the founder and president of Astro Studios, Brett Lovelady, and these are the guys who designed the controller for the Xbox 360.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
And basically what he says is that gamers now are so trained to use the joystick that has this button, an analog stick, this button, that he doesn't know if Nintendo should stray too far from that concept design because gamers may be like,
I agree.
That's weird,
radical.
and I don't know how to play with that has buttons
The thing is,
over
the
here.
controllers are not. I remember with the PS3 controller, everyone saw this weird sort of boomerang thing, and everyone kept saying it's like that's interesting, but it's like the DualShock for PS2 is so great now.
Yes. Right.
You don't need to change it. It's not broken.
There's a transition period.
But it doesn't mean it's the best. He even mentioned the fact that we use, Brett was so great, he mentioned using keyboard and mouse, which may not be the best technology, but we're so used to it.
Exactly.
But he did say that if any company could do it and make us all go this other way, it would be Nintendo.
Cool. I agree.
So there you go.
Well, we also talked to a bunch of developers to see, because developers are what matter if they're going to make games for this.
Absolutely.
They're going to be excited. And one quote that's been out there on the internet is Peter Molyneux from Lionhead Studios. Now, I saw Peter a couple of months ago, and he was asking me, what did I know about the Revolution? Now he gave this quote saying, never underestimate Nintendo. That's all I can say about the controller. So he's obviously excited. He's a creative guy.
He's on the page with Brett Lovelady. He said, if anybody can do it, Nintendo.
That's good. And then we went to Ted Price from Insomniac Studios. This is what he told us. I think he was joking, but he said, what's unique about the Revolution controller is it's going to play games for you. Eventually, upgrades will include add-on AI modules to do your job and manage your relationship.
Ted's such a tech guy.
That's
like
mainstream.
The AI module.
The guy with the win button was on the right track. You don't have to do much.
But finally, of course, guys, look at this. Look at this photo. You got to love Cliffy B. And this is what Cliffy B told us. He said, I'm glad someone's trying to change the paradigm. The last big innovation in controllers was the introduction of the analog stick.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to Jeff Anderson from Turbine, the man who took away your world. Don't even think about moving. You either, Jeff.
I'm not moving.
If I could compete in one game, it would have to be Unreal Tournament on Arena. I love that game. I had the maps memorized. I knew how to manage power-ups. I had my double jumps and my strafing technique down to a science. But none of that mattered because I needed to have perfectly styled hair and lots of denim. That was my role on Arena.
Nintendo, what's your problem? We don't want to see another Mario sports game. We want to see some M-rated games out there because M-rated games have better plots and are more fun to play.
What the heck's with all the negative put-downs about Advent Rising? I mean, I'm borrowing it from a friend right now, and I played it. Yeah, it's the frame rate. It is horrible, but it has an awesome story plot.
Please don't tell me I'm the only one who wants a Mutant League football remake, especially on the next gen. Bones breaking, guts flying. Count me in.
You might be the only one.
We got a lot of angry viewers who want mature teams and blood.
He doesn't like all those bad things you're saying about Advent.
You weren't a big fan of Advent
know,
either.
yeah, exactly.
It's like
good music.
it doesn't actually play smoothly or straight, or you can't jump. But hell, it's a great game.
Right. It's good times. All right, guys. Well, welcome back. Now, what do you do when you find out the MMORPG you've invested months of your life in is going to shut down? Well, this week, thousands of Asheron Call 2 players had to face that very question. Now, the MMO market is growing, with World of Warcraft recently topping 4 million players. Pretty impressive. But a few games are dominating the market, leaving many small MMOs struggling to survive. Well, joining us via satellite today to discuss the state of the business and to explain the closure of Asheron's Call 2 is Jeff Anderson, the CEO of Turbine, the company that created the game. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, thanks for being on, Jeff. Let's get right to it. Why did you decide to close down Asheron's Call 2?
Well, the closure was really based around a simple business decision. We just didn't have enough subscribers coming into the game on a daily basis to make it successful enough for us.
How many subscribers did you guys roughly have?
Well, we don't talk about numbers. Obviously, what we want to reinforce is the difference between where we are in a game like AC2, which was kind of in the later stages of its development, and a product like Asheron's Call 1, which is still very vibrant and has a huge community.
Why do you think the game didn't get the subscribers maybe it deserved? Why did it fail?
Well, there's lots of reasons it's possible that it didn't reach the numbers we had hoped for. I think fundamentally it just didn't find its market. It didn't find its audience. Now, our focus really is on how do we continue to define the business, how do we make better products, and we feel like the next games we're working on really help do that.
What's interesting, though, is that, the first game is surviving here when the second one isn't. So, I mean, that's always an issue. It's like, you create a sequel. You hope all the users are going to kind of transition to the next game. Did that just never happen in this situation?
Yeah, I think, frankly, looking back on it, maybe working on a game like a sequel isn't maybe the smartest thing to be doing. We want to really try to invest in the communities as opposed to trying to do sequels. Expansion packs have proven to be incredibly successful way of doing that.
Now, one of the interesting things is, I always look at the sort of social dynamics of these games. It's interesting with a game like World of Warcraft, everybody and their friends are playing that game. So that's sort of the game you want to play. Is there ever sort of a worry that, the smaller games, you can never reach that critical mass because everyone and their friends is playing a different game, so it's hard to attract them to a new property?
Well, there is no doubt that there's what we call a network effect of people who will attract other people to come in and play the game. So if you're there and you have a friend, you want to bring them along, that's definitely true. That's true whether it's a small game or a large game, but the effect is so much greater in a large game. Still, I think long-term we'll see in the business an opportunity for the big games to have big markets and for small games to have audience share as well.
Are those games still viable, though, you think, with, 50,000 subscribers? Or, I mean, these games cost so much to make these days. I mean, do you have to have, a couple 100,000 people to make it viable?
Great question. It really comes down to what the product is and who the people are that are running it. You can imagine a small boutique, maybe a text-based MUD, where the costs of both production and maintenance are really low. They can be very profitable with 10, 20 people playing a game.
Let's talk about some new games. You're working on both Dungeons & Dragons Online and Lord of the Rings Online. Are you at all worried about possibly releasing two fantasy MMOs titles so close together?
Well, it's the question for us is how do we create the separation between the two products? Dungeons & Dragons Online is a terrific product, really focused on what we describe as the dungeon crawl experience. Instead of a lot of landscape sprawl, we're really going for that terrific dungeon crawl. How can I have this party of unique skills and characters and classes built together to make the best use of this terrific instant dungeon? And you look at Lord of the Rings, a terrific franchise, what a great book, what a great film, a wonderful intellectual property. And our focus there is how do we create that epic masterpiece that the online player really wants to be a part of? How can they adventure in the world of Middle-earth? How can they be fighting alongside heroes and characters that they've known throughout the decades and millennium?
And when are we going to have, be able to get in the betas for these games? Soon?
Well, I don't know. I haven't got my check in the mail yet, but most players are able to start signing up right now on DDO.com and the website and Turbine's website, turbine.com. They can go there and put their information in, and we're taking active people today that are being let in. We have upwards of 1,000 people playing in the DDO right now, and it's exciting I go in every night and play, and I see just more and more people showing up.
Well,
so
Jeff,
it's very fun.
Those are two fantastic licenses and franchises. We wish you the best of luck with both of them.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, if you like having the crap scared out of you, and you'll just love what we've got next, we're bringing you F.E.A.R. right after this.
You're plugged into G4 Rewind. Up next, Game Makers.
This month, Adam and Morgan are traveling the globe, bringing you the biggest gaming conventions in the world.
You want to see them, and we've got them.
Next stop, Germany's Leipzig, Europe's battleground for console domination. Then it's PAX, Washington's huge indie gamer culture party.
It's pretty impressive.
Gaming's Mega Month continues with Leipzig, starting Monday at 8. Only on G4.
Look who's here, it's Kevin Pereira, and he's taking your questions.
Hey Kevin, do you think you will ever stop getting flack for that arena stash?
I will never, ever stop getting flack for that damn mustache. It never grew in. I couldn't get this little middle portion right here. And nobody told me it looked ridiculous. And I wore it with pride, and I still look back fondly on that piece of facial hair.
Everybody likes a good spooky game, and this October, right in time for Halloween, VU Games is bringing out F.E.A.R. It's a first-person shooter for the PC that some describe as The Matrix meets The Ring. You can already download a single-player demo on the internet. Let's take a look now at the full game.
Spooky.
Well, Well, joining us in the studio to tell us about the game is its executive producer, Chris Miller. Hey, Chris, how are you? So I got to ask you, what's with the freaky girl there?
Come on, what, everybody likes a freaky little girl. That's the whole deal.
This is what I've been saying my whole life.
It's all about but it's interesting that you guys are doing, first-person shooter, obviously, but some really interesting story elements to it. What can you tell us about the story? Because you guys are shrouding a lot of this game in secrecy, right? You're not talking about anything past the 4th level?
True, we are keeping the story under wraps. I can quote Craig in that, the best way to ruin a horror story is to explain it away. So one of the tactics is to keep things very sort of low-key, minimalistic, so that, the anticipation builds and everybody, really sort of looks forward to getting their hands on it.
Interesting. There's a freaky girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
We've got one on the set here, too. Don't worry about it.
Right.
It helps it all.
It's all about that. Now, Chris, another thing I wanted to ask you about was first-person shooter, very competitive genre, Half-Life 2, sort of the most innovative games are in that genre. What are you guys bringing innovation-wise to the genre with this game?
I think with any of the first-person shooters that are new to the market, there's a drive to sort of innovate technologically. And obviously with F.E.A.R, the focus was on, bringing the graphics engine and the effects system up, as well as the AI system.
Right.
And then to sort of push the storytelling into a new genre as well. Or not a new genre, but a new way of telling the stories. So that's really been the focus and drive on that.
Now, you're doing this for the PC, and so there's so few PC games now. The market is down 10 to 15%, it seems, already this year. Why keep doing these games for the PC and not bring them to the console?
Well, I mean, the PC is what drives technology forward anyway, and consoles tend to be sort of snapshots of that technology. But I think in the natural case, the F.E.A.R team is a developer founded in PC technology, and so the natural sort of step to stay there as well as branch out. I won't, allude to any potential next things, but
but Monolith is doing. They're doing the game Condemned for Sega, which is a console game, so they're obviously moving in that direction a little bit.
Yes, they're thinking of. There's a lot of forward thinking going on.
Well, one other thing I wanted to ask you about was the actual sort of action. I mean, it's there. It seems lots of guns, lots of combat. How much sort of puzzle solving is in this game versus straight ahead action?
This game was focused on, F.E.A.R focuses on action.
Okay.
So there are puzzle elements
like physics
in there.
puzzles or anything like that? Or
not so
really?
much physics puzzles, but sort of movement puzzles and interactive object puzzles. But again, the focus was on action and to really sort of force the player to not be able to think of anything else but, oh man, I got to get out of this thing alive.
Yeah.
And then, so that's where the game really sort of plays up its strengths.
Well, it looks great. And I know you guys have been looking at it.
Yeah, we have.
On the
We actually
boards?
got a couple questions from the boards. One person wants to know, it's all fine and good to play with yourself, but what can we expect from F.E.A.R's multiplayer?
Right, the F.E.A.R's multiplayer is basically a system that's broken down. You've got two teams. It's sort of Counter-Strike-esque in its feel. You've got the two teams. You have the slow motion deathmatch as well as standard deathmatch. It's a really robust system.
Can you play the little girl in multiplayer?
No, you cannot. Yeah,
Can you kill the little girl?
No, and I'm a little worried.
All right, Chris,
cool.
What's the Director's Edition going to include on the DVD? What are we going to get from that?
The Director's Edition, other than being on DVD versus CD, has a live-action prequel thing that was written by the team and produced. We have it's got some bonus content in terms of a commentary pass by a lot of the level designers. Craig, the lead story designer, and John Mulkey sit down and talk about all what inspired them to
a little
get into
behind-the-scenes
this
look at the making of the
definitely
game. Cool,
behind
very
the
cool.
scenes.
Excellent. Well, can't wait to play it. It's coming out in October. It's F.E.A.R. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah,
Thanks, Chris. We appreciate it. All right, coming up, things get dramatic with our very first version of Message Board Theater. But before that, let's take a look at Spooey's 5 favorite games in this week's Sweetest 5, presented by Juicy Fruit. At number 5, we have Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PSX. Number 4, Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. Number 3, Mega Man 2 on the NES. Number 2, Super Metroid on the SNES. And at number 1, the Bionic Commando on the NES, going old school.
Now, earlier we spoke with Jeff Anderson from Turbine, and the news that Asheron Call 2 was closing down came as a pretty big shock to a lot of gamers this week. Nowhere was that more evident than on the official AC2 message boards. We gathered some of those posts and put together this film. All of these are actual quotes from those posts. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you Message Board Theater.
For me, it's like a family member has been diagnosed with incurable cancer and has been given 4 months to live.
I will never ever give the people that causes me this pain money again.
I have met so many people, many of whom will continue as lifelong friends. We will gather together on our website, and our monarch will lead us in choosing of a new game so that we could continue the journey of friendship. The single stipulation would be that it would not be a product of Turbine.
You've got to be f***ing me. Thanks a lot. I poured my heart and soul into trying to help this game help its community, and you back out that f***ing fast. 7 months. Thanks a bunch. You've got to be kidding me. Thanks a lot. I poured my heart and soul into trying to help this game, to help its community, and you back out that f***ing fast. 7 months. Thanks a lot.
Wow, I'm honestly stunned. I love this game. I spent a lot of time and effort making it a better place. I'll be very sad to see it go, and I will miss my friends very much.
I don't bother with RL since I don't see a point in investing time and effort in something that's going to end, most likely in 50 to 100 years, if you're extraordinarily lucky, which I'm not. And that's what's exactly happened with AC2. I always thought naively that AC2 would go on forever.
Whoa!
There you go. A short film by Guy Brown.
Wow, that was.
I too am upset and might shed a tear.
I think our show's a little dramatic.
But people feel passionately. They're taking their lives away.
God, that was great.
It was good. All right, guys, well, that's it for this week. We want to thank our guests, Chris Miller and Jeff Anderson. Now, we're off next week for Labor Day, but we'll see you back here in 2 weeks with a special report on the Tokyo Game Show. We also want to send out our thoughts to anyone that was affected by Hurricane Katrina. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.